Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar, STEM Accessibility, Accessible Design for Complex Digital Resources, Part 2, presented by Michele Joy Bromley. This webinar is made available by the Northwest Higher Education Accessibility Technology Group. Northwest Heat is a joint project of the Orbis Cascade Alliance and NWAC, the Northwest Academic Computing Consortium. Our mission at Northwest Heat is to advance our common goal of ensuring that digital services, systems, and resources are equitably accessible to all users. Our overarching goal is to cultivate a community of practice among faculty and staff who support digital accessibility on their campuses. To do this, we provide a series of professional development opportunities, such as this webinar, and we share best practices and resources through a collaborative knowledge base. If you would like more information about the work of Northwest Heat, we invite you to visit nwheat.org. You can also communicate with us through the poll that we will share at the end of this session. Before we introduce our presenter, we will take a moment to share some housekeeping details. This session includes a chat, which means you can submit questions to our presenter throughout the session. This session includes captioning. You will find instructions on how to access captioning in our Zoom chat. This session is being recorded, and the video will be shared on this event's page at northwestheat.org. Our presenter for STEM accessibility is Michele Joy Bromley, a digital accessibility and inclusivity specialist from whom we have already learned valuable design and remediation strategies in past webinars. And now we turn it over to Michele for her presentation.
You. I would say that calling today's webinar a presentation might be a little generous. Good morning, everyone. Show of quick, I don't know, digital hands, digital emojis of choice, considering we're talking about STEM accessibility basics, accessible design for complex digital resources. It could be like pain emojis, just maybe even a scream emoji. Show of whatever digital reaction you want for anyone who has been at one of my practice sessions before, the follow-up session to a presentation. I saw like 3 reactions. Ooh, 4. Okay, that's good. Okay, 5. All right, so a few of you know what I meant, but whoa, that was like an explosion of thumbs up. I don't know, I don't know if that was a lot of people sending emojis at once or one person sending an extremely excited animated emoji. But either way, I'm going to introduce myself and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing today. As I said last time, I am your friendly neighborhood digital accessibility and inclusivity specialist, Michele Joy Bromley. Pronouns she, her, hers. I've been a digital accessibility specialist for over 15 years now and a nerd for over 35. I have a Master of Arts in English from Oregon State University, which laid the foundation for my focus on accessible, inclusive, and usable content design and remediation. I started out as a college writing instructor before moving into the disability services field as an adaptive technology specialist and alternative formats coordinator. I am now a certified accessible document specialist and certified professional in web accessibility through the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, with a focus on digital accessibility validation and remediation. And as I said, today's webinar isn't quite a presentation. And while we have this fancy, super professional looking slide up here at the front, there aren't prepared slides for this presentation, though I have all of the slides from our presentation from 2 weeks ago to reference should we have any questions where we want to go back to some of the step-by-step instructions and resources we talked about last time. What today's webinar is, similar to the format that we did for the document accessibility series, where we did a lecture session on word processing, accessibility basics, and then a practice session, which was really like a hands-on, sort of sustained Q&A session. And then we did a presentation, lecture session, and then a hands-on session, and then the same with PDFs. Today is meant to be a sustained, excuse me, Q&A session. Folks had the opportunity between the last session and today to send me examples of any super scary STEM or we talked about math and so science, technology, engineering, and math. We also talked about art and music examples during the last session. And folks had the opportunity to send me some, understandably, since we all work in higher education and everybody here likely wears somewhere between 3 to 7 hats and only gets paid for one. No one had the time to send me anything, which is totally okay. That's what open educational resources are for. So I've got a couple examples for us to take a look at that folks can ask questions about. From I chose macroeconomics edition 3. So it was a little scary for us to take a look at. But I want to open up first with any burning questions that we didn't get to after the last session. Um, because one of the things that often happens during a session as intense as a STEM accessibility basics session is that I think we came down to about 7 minutes for questions, and we sure filled that time. So I want to open up for questions, and if there's anything that is kind of burning, like, oh, I think I had a question about this, I've got the slide presentation up so that we can go back and take a look at it. So yeah, Monica.
Hey, Michelle, this is a burning
Hey.
question from a staff person that I'm working to support, and
Yeah,
it's pretty technical in nature. I'm just gonna
sure.
put it out there. If it makes sense to just let it hang and address it later, you can do that. It's specifically about using math type
Okay.
to write math content as a
Yeah.
plugin in Word. And this person is having some conflicting experiences slash information given to her by the vendor of whether or not when math type is used to create mathematical content in Word, it is generating it in the Word document as
Mhm.
MathML, which means, navigable in all parts of the equation, I think, by a screen reader versus the MathML being placed as an alt text on an image, which I did not think personally that's what was happening in the workflow with math type in Word. Um, and I personally have some limited access to the tools, so I'm having a hard time verifying for her myself. But yeah, anyway, she emailed me with that question and some high emotions because faculty are needing
Yeah.
to know the exact output and the exact like recommended workflow. I hope that was appropriate question.
No, well, it wasn't an inappropriate question. Um,
I know it was very
uh,
specific.
no, that's a great question. And let me see. Actually, that is probably something that I should have double checked today to see if I could get myself a trial copy of, I'm doing this live right now and seeing if I can get myself a brand new trial copy because my last one ran out. Ooh, I probably can. Um, so while I'm doing that, unless something has changed dramatically since the last time that I used math type, um, it is navigable via screen reader, character by character in Microsoft Word. It's not typically at least not with the screen reader users and students with disabilities with whom I have worked in the past. It's not typically the preferred format. Um, it's sometimes a preferred format if a student wants to be able to complete an assignment and they want to be able to interact with an equation and then type a response or type a thought about it back into the document and then turn the document back into their instructor. So that's one method that students with whom I've worked in the past have used to engage with an assignment. So in my experience in the past, they have been fully something that you can fully interact with. It's why math type has been a preferred equation editor to the original Microsoft Word editor, which would not generate equations in the past that you could fully interact with using a screen reader with a math add-on like MathCat. Um, Typically, with the students with whom I've worked in the past, Math XML was the preferred format because the reading experience was a lot smoother. So if it was a reading experience that they for which they were looking only, then that was the preferred experience. But if it was an interaction experience where they wanted to be able to type something in response, then Microsoft Word was the preferred choice.
And so if Word wasn't the preferred choice and Math XML was, what format is that ending up in then? From Word to
So
what?
yeah, so in Microsoft Word, I let's see, let me pull up.
I
Stop
hope you're not going to
sharing.
say PDF.
Do you know me, Monica? There are very few accessibility questions that someone will ask me that will end
With
with
PDF.
with portable document format. Um, Here, I'm pulling up.
So yeah, so if generating the content
Yeah,
in using math type in Word is still like
yeah.
hunky dory for these faculty, but then maybe not leaving it in Word if that's what the student really it needs, but if not leaving it where in Word is preferred for the student, what's the next step in that
It's I'm
workflow
trying to
slash
remember the
output?
yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact save the word file in the math type tab, publish to math page. Under document, input the name of the file as the title and ensure that the file will be saved under accessible HTML. Under equations, select MathML using XHTML plus MathML. Except I occasionally ran into XML parsing errors. Here, I'm trying to download the I'm trying to download the trial version right now so that ooh, it's letting me. This is so cool. If I were substantially more responsible than this, I would have anticipated getting a math type question and downloading this, you know, before. But this is exactly what one of these
It's
sessions
okay.
is
I
for.
think we can all relate.
But yeah, I can show you. Oh, don't be
I
grumpy.
just put in the blog post that we had shared at the last session too, because it actually walked folks through the various Microsoft updates of 2026, including, I think, the current topic about MathML converting from Microsoft, like Word docs and other things. And it references whether it's export to PDF or other things, but you kind of have to just read through the blog.
Yeah, and there's guaranteed to, if I'm unable to, sorry, I'm trying to remember my admin password right now to install this .exe file. And I have ADHD, so doing two things at once is difficult for me.
Also, if it makes sense to like continue on with what you have scheduled, I certainly don't want to be the
Oh,
showstopper here.
oh my God, this is what I have scheduled, are these kind of questions.
Oh, okay.
is exactly this kind of stuff. Now if I'm unable to get math type 7.1.1.1.462, which is the current version of math type installed, um I promise you that what I'm trying to pull up and show y'all, I I am like 98% sure that there that there's gonna be an article somewhere with instructions for doing this. But essentially, when you've created the document in Microsoft Word and you've designed all of your accessible equations, um, you pull up your export options and you're exporting it to it's XHTML plus MathML is, I believe, the right format. I'm doing that from memory, which is why I want to pull it up so that I can see it. But I believe from memory that that is, I love that this is being recorded, so I could be totally wrong, but I believe that is XHTML plus MathML. Um, and from memory, every once in a while, I used to run into XML
This is helpful, just so you know.
parsing errors, but that was just because I was having iDrive issues.
Okay, this is helpful. Just like the missing additional step was like pulling up
Yeah,
the export options, I think, and knowing what to
yeah.
do there for this current group of people with this current workflow. And Alice, I want to acknowledge that you put the Microsoft update information in the chat for us, which I think we're all excited to learn more about. And one thing I remember hearing Michelle say last time was that until we have stress tested the actual outcome of these
Yeah, because
updates, like I'm hesitant to believe that there's going to
it's
be a
very new.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
So I'm telling all of my folks who are very excited about this, like let's remain excited and curious and test it, but let's
yeah,
not fully trust it and abandon our current workflows just yet.
yeah. It's very, very, very new. So all anytime there's a sort of an announcement about a new uh accessibility, moving of the goalposts, it's trust but verify is really important. And I see Julia also has a question. The only remaining thing that I'll say, because I think it is going to take me a little bit longer to install this, is that it's the export functions in math type to go to XHTML plus MathML, and then it's Duxbury Braille translator is one of your best options for taking the DocX to Nemeth Braille. So it's really like going from the DocX to whatever is the most appropriate output, depending on how you're sharing it. Julia, you disappeared, but Julia had a hand up. It was a very cool photo or image
Sorry,
somewhere.
I hit the button accidentally.
Oh, hi, Julia. Oh, you hit the hand raise accidentally, or you hit the lower hand accidentally?
I raised my hand accidentally.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Um, okay. So there was a math type question. Any other questions from last time? And if it would be helpful again for me to pull up the slides for either anyone who wasn't able to be there or anyone who wants a quick review of some of the stuff we talked about to sort of jog your memory, um, I can do that. So let me know. Okay. Oh, Natalie.
Hey, I put this in the chat, but I was hoping
Yeah.
you could go over like your best practices for flow charts. And I think someone else was like, ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, organizational charts would be super helpful. Because this is, we have flow charts in classes, but then on, a university-wide organizational level, obviously we have staff and faculty member who also have accessibility needs. And so, yeah, that would be helpful.
That is brilliant. Natalie, do you have an example you could share with me?
Yes, just give me one moment. I was looking for it because I was like, ooh, this would be a good thing to go over. Give me like 2 minutes to see if I can't find it.
Perfect. Perfect. And I will pull up a Google Doc. Curiosity question while I'm pulling up this Google Doc. Does the pageless mode in Google Docs stress anyone else out? Pageless
Yeah,
stresses me out a little bit.
Yes,
it's just,
absolutely.
yeah. Like, where did the formatting and boundaries go?
It's yes, where are my boundaries? It's like trying to trick me into thinking that I'm in an HTML situation and I'm not really. I mean, I will be if I publish it as Google HTML, but then that tricks people into thinking that they can print it like a document. And if they try, it's gonna be real weird. And so then they're gonna try to export it as a PDF. And then they will, and then it's gonna be super inaccessible. It just, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of just all roads lead to scary, scary portable document format is the problem. Alrighty, let's go with STEM.
Are we doing the
Q.
flowchart stuff now?
We are, and oh, but you can ask another question while Natalie's looking.
Oh, no. Just if you end up get if you end up getting the math ML or the
Yeah,
math if the math type up and running before the end of the session, looking at those
yeah,
export options, I think as a group would be awesome.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got it installed, maybe. Um, uh, just having trouble getting it to, do what it's supposed to do.
Okay, I got a flow chart. Do you want me to put it in this Google Doc? I got an
Oh,
image of it.
that would be delightful. You know what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna give this to everyone, all of you.
Michelle, don't forget to change everyone to editor if you're wanting people to be able to paste.
Yes. Thank you. Um, well, isn't that just the ugliest URL we ever did see? Alrighty. Oh, this is fun. I see anonymous dolphin, anonymous hamster, walrus, unicorn. This is a blast. We've got a we've got a zoo up in here. Oh, so pretty.
Oh, I would just
Did
do this as
already
a
adapt
list.
this. So this was like adapted from a more
Yeah,
inaccessible version.
yeah.
So yeah, I'd love.
Oh, this is beautiful. Um, so, um, most of the time, flowcharts, unless they're like super super wonky dory, the biggest go-to for flowcharts, and real quick because it's gonna just stress me out if I don't have my heading one up in here, so I'm just gonna pop that in there real quick. And I'm sorry. Flowchart example. I just, what once you have student workers, you can't have it out of your head that everything you create, I tell them every time I create anything, I have to do the heading one and the heading two while I'm doing it so that they can see me doing it. Um, and so now it's just, so with flowcharts, it's almost always solvable via a list, unless it's really, really wild. Um, and this one pretty likely can be. Let's take a pass at it. So, if I were going to turn this into alt text, first of all, I'd have to decide how or create an accessible version of this. First, I would have to decide how lazy I was going to be because I might just start diving in and creating a list of this and retyping it all. But more likely, because I just am really tired today. Um, I would use my snapshot feature real quick to just grab it, and then I'd open up MathPix real quick. Um, oh, I forgot I haven't opened it up on this browser before, or maybe I have. Maybe I have. Ah, thank goodness. Okay. Because I just really don't want to retype. Y'all are seeing me project math pics. Is that correct? Right now? I see a thumbs up. Okay, good. My
Yes.
in my last presentation, I talked for a full like 5 to 7 minutes about something that I thought I was sharing and I wasn't. So yes, the first thing I would do when I see this flow chart is be immensely lazy because I don't want to retype anything. Um, so whoopsie daisies. Come with me. There we go. Why do you look so small? Did I zoom out? Yes, I did. You look so tiny and sad. I'm gonna make you into a list. Manufacturing cost, also called product cost for financial accounting purposes. Direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Boops. Direct materials are materials that can be conveniently traced to a product, such as wood on the table. I'm learning something right now. You know, I was just telling the Northwest Northwest Education Accessibility Technology Group organizers that I was feeling very lucky about the educational pathway that I took with my degrees as I was going through that macroeconomics third edition textbook because it was way over my head. And frankly, the manufacturing cost, direct labor, this is a little over my head too, not gonna lie. All right. I'm having trouble, so I need a little bit of visual emphasis here. Bum, ba-da, bum, 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 bum. Alrighty. And then let's see. Both direct labor and direct materials lead to prime cost. This is a good example of whenever someone asks me about whenever somebody asks me about tables, we're talking about making tables accessible uh, in a content management tool that does not allow for accessible markup with merge cells, which is frankly most of the content management tools that our instructional designers and our faculty members are using. I mean, unless they're doing back-end HTML design on a web page, most of the time they're creating their tables using tools like Google Workspace and Microsoft Office. And when folks are using tools like that, and it doesn't allow for accessible markup to scope merge cells to the appropriate header row and header column, and I say no merge cells, a lot of times folks go, "Oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do without the ability to do merge cells?" And the answer is that you sometimes have to repeat things. Let's see. Oh, direct labor also has conversion cost. That is fun for direct labor, isn't it?
Michelle, someone
Yeah.
named Janine put a great example in the
Oh,
chat.
yay.
Um,
Lovely.
org style chart that was in Canvas. It
Yeah.
might be not, it's a little bit more complex than the example we're looking at
Yeah.
right now. Has
Yeah,
to
we'll
do
take
with
a
information about the brain.
yeah, we will take a look at that here in just a moment. We'll finish this one. Um, did MathPix fail me and not show me the second half of my, it didn't show me selling cost. That's very sad. Um, ooh, Wendy, MathPix. Oh my goodness. Yes. Wendy says MathPix looks interesting. Could you provide a brief description of its capabilities and how to use it? Oh my goodness. If you have not used MathPix yet, please, please do. MathPix is actually um MathPix is the I believe it's still the one I think it's still the uh optical character recognition tool behind Equatio by Text Help. I could be wrong, but I believe that it is still the optical character recognition tool that's powering Equatio. Um, but MathPix is a very powerful optical character recognition tool. It's one of the few out there that can read handwritten uh, math equations. It can handle math. It is an absolutely fantastic optical character recognition tool. And it's free. It's like the NVDA is to screen readers, what MathPix is to optical character recognition. Um, Asterisks, I am not an advertiser or earning any money for this advertisement. But I love MathPix. So okay. Um, all right. So I'm not going to type the rest of it, but non-manufacturing costs. So Natalie, does that answer your question of how I would turn this one into an accessible long
Yeah.
description?
Yeah, and that's basically what I did for this one. I just like
Yeah.
had it because this was just, this was an easy one where I had it in
Yeah,
a Word document as notes. So then I just created an appendix where students could go.
absolutely. So
And
that
yeah, so what would you do for the alt text versus like
yeah.
maybe like a caption or something?
Yeah, so the alt text would still be a brief description of the contextual content and function. So it would be the alt text that I would give something like this would be a diagram explaining manufacturing costs for direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, and non-manufacturing costs for including selling costs and administrative costs. Please refer to fill in the blank for additional information. Appendices, surrounding context, depending on where you put it, right? So if there were if this kind of textual representation was already in surrounding text, I would say refer to surrounding text. If it were an appendices, I would say refer to the appendices. If this were a complex graphic, um, then yeah, if this were a complex graphic, then and you needed a tabular representation of data, then you would need to refer to the tabular representation of data. Um,
And that like refer to would always be in the alt text, not like in a caption underneath or anything. Or is it really user's choice, I guess?
it's really kind of the user's choice. Um, and I want to also make sure to share let's see, there's some really great comments in the chat too. Nick Taylor shared that they have a number of instructors who have objectives that appear to be visual, as in students are expected to interpret the visuals and say an electronic schematic or complex diagram like a blueprint as a part of their preparation in the field. While we can create alt text or long descriptions, there's been this fear that undermines the objective or assessment. What have folks' approaches and workflows been in that situation? Let's see. Amy shares along these lines. I got a message from a faculty member that Oregon will not allow you to be an electrician or do electrical work if you are visually impaired. So what's the point of remediating their book? Um, I just said that I'm not aware of any exemption along these lines, but I'm wondering how other folks handle things like this. Nick said I had a super similar conversation with a faculty in a similar program where they said certain wires were color coded for safety and that students were assessed based on ability to identify the meaning of these colors. Like there are very easy accommodations that it seems like the field should take. Like, why don't we just write what the wire does, why it's dangerous on a tag? It still was an objective of the course tied to the field. Um, Monica said, "Whoa, I would advise getting your whoa with an exclamation mark," which I just want to second the exclamation mark. I would advise getting your disability services folks involved because this could result in a legal discrimination complaint for the colleges. I would like to second that too. Faculty can help determine the technical standards and learning outcomes for a course or program, but cannot determine who is qualified to be admitted into a class or program based on disability. Nick says, thanks, Monica. That makes sense. That language of cannot determine who is qualified is a helpful reminder that I can repeat to faculty. Disability Access Service is going to have to be involved when we don't get traction creating accessible materials. Monica says, exactly right. If there's a program that has entrance requirements, all students must demonstrate meeting those requirements regardless of disability with or without accommodations. That is what the law says. Nick shares that it's helpful to know. Thanks for working through that with me. Monica reminds that we can't make those decisions on the basis of disability. And this is a super great conversation. I want to share. This is something that came up in a conversation with the Northwest Heat organizers after the last presentation. And it's actually something that's come up with a couple of organizations with whom I've been chatting recently, which is this conversation of what happens when we're asked to do alternative text for complex diagrams in the context of exams and quizzes and tests, and faculty members who say, well, that gives away the answer. And the problem, and I appreciate Monica's advice there because this is when you really do need to get your disability services offices involved. If because most of the time when we're talking about course design, we're trying to talk about proactive course design. We're talking about faculty members designing their courses. We're talking about instructional designers. We're talking about resource librarians, and we're trying to talk about best practices for what we're doing proactively. And then folks are asking these questions, how can I proactively design these things if it's going to undermine the fundamental learning outcomes of my course? And when it gets into the philosophical side of accessible design, that's when it is really, really, really important to start bringing in your disability services experts and advocates, because it becomes a question of what it is that people are testing. It's one of the things that I have been very careful as a digital accessibility subject matter expert about presenting on topics like that, because it moves out of a technical expertise question about how you make something accessible and moves into a philosophical question about how you are measuring somebody's academic success. And the problem is if you have a visual diagram, if you have like a visual graph, say, right? And the question in the exam or the test is to interpret the data and look at the spread of the data and then make a visual estimate of where the data falls and what that means. Fundamentally, you're not actually testing the student's understanding of the subject matter, you're testing their visual acuity. And so the closest kind of equivalent for a student who is blind in that scenario maybe would be to create a tactile graphic so that you're testing their tactile acuity, maybe. But again, you're testing visual acuity and tactile acuity, which both are not particularly relevant to the subject matter. But that is a philosophical question and not a technical design question. And as a digital accessibility subject matter expert, is not one that I feel qualified to answer. So that is a question as as an alternative formats expert, as an adaptive technology expert, when I would hit that kind of barrier with a faculty member, that is when I would refer them to one of our they were called accessibility, or they might still be called accessibility counselors in the disability services office at Portland State University, because we're talking about a a a philosophical question of testing someone's uh capabilities, and it becomes very, very tricky. um Monica.
I just recently got us another great example of this like philosophical debate of like are we testing their mastery of the material or their vision, and it was from a professor who is like really working hard to rock the proactive accessibility. I want to give this person props, and has a question where it's like, look at this picture of a really detailed rock. I think it's a geology class or something, and then
Yeah,
tell me what you see and like what you might be able to surmise from what you see from this rock. And if you can't see the rock, then you're not going to surmise anything. So my thought was like, in that sense, you do need to give all of the descriptive detail, right, to someone who is blind, and then allow them to, consider that information and tell you, right, what they surmise. But it is a tricky space we're finding ourselves in with, as accessibility folks, with the content subject matter experts, which are the faculty. It's tough. Like, and I don't always know the right answer, to your point, Michelle. And so I think, yeah, I think we need to be remembering our accommodation folks along the way here, because I would say to this professor, probably we need to be giving the detail of what's happening with this rock in some sort of description if someone
yeah,
can't see the rock, so that they can tell you based on the description what conclusions they're gonna, you know,
yeah,
find.
yeah. Well, and as I shared, I think there are we have very clear baseline technical guidelines for what it means for a digital resource to be accessible, right? Web content accessibility guidelines, 2.1 legally, but we've also got obviously now 2.2 available to us, 3.0, or Project Silver on the way, right? Um, we've got this baseline set of technical guidelines. Then we also know that there's a lot of cognitive accessibility focused best practices related to readability and typography and that kind of thing. So we know that we know what the baseline technical guidelines are. So when someone comes to me with an object, a digital asset, and says, "How do I make this accessible?" I can answer that question. And then when someone says, "Okay, but if you make it accessible like that, mm, now that it's accessible, it it messes with this person's ability to learn, or my ability to assess their learning." That's when I need to pass them on to a disability services professional. Um, and so I'm just emphasizing and agreeing with what Monica shared there, because there is going to be a moment where we're then talking about that individual case by case process, that conversation where it moves from technical to philosophical, that moment where there needs to be a conversation about, again, that I think Monica mentioned that language has always been very helpful to me. The question of, what exactly are you testing? Are you testing somebody's grasp of this information, or are you testing their visual acuity, or their tactile acuity, right? um I missed. Oh, Janine, I am so sorry. Yes. Follow up on the org chart example. And then also, I think Alice had an earlier question There's just y'all are so active in the chat. It's so great, but I keep missing things. But Janine, I just saw yours first, so I'm gonna say that. Um, Follow up on the org chart example. The rest is don't want to waste time. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't mumble. Right. I'm going to actually read it. Follow up on my org chart example. I think the rest of the discussion is more valuable, so don't want to waste time. I will say that we used headings and bulleted lists to make the complex org chart accessible. Yes, absolutely. Org charts, flow charts, and diagrams with a few exceptions that definitely happen. Um, Most of the time, org charts and flow charts, a real nice bulleted list, heading structure, sometimes a table, depending a table with clear header rows and header columns, depending on the nature of the flow chart. But absolutely, Janine, 100%. And I think that should be the one still projecting. Are folks seeing this, the brain, initial division, major structures? Great. I see some thumbs up. Yeah. So absolutely. If I looked at something like this is so prime for using heading structure and lists. So absolutely. Flowcharts, org charts, and diagrams. Most often, my go-tos are bulleted lists, and careful use of hierarchical heading structure, and occasionally, depending on the format, tables with header rows and header columns. Alice asked a good question, and I'm trying to find it.
Oh, I can verbalize it. Actually, I guess more
Oh,
context was,
great.
what about um, things that are less linear, since, I can see the flow charts and things are
Yeah,
it's kind of a linear organization. But what about something that's more abstract, like sketch notes, graphic summaries, or like word clouds, things that just might not have as much of that linear organization. And I had typed a clarifying, like just to add more details, was basically for an accessible version. The purpose of the sketch note is to turn, I guess, is to go from that linear text into something that adds more visual, kind of a more abstract flow. So if you're going to turn that into an accessible version, should it be one that then just strips the decorative visuals, or do you create, say if you were to because we've been using Canva, for example, to create sketch notes. You could turn it into a PDF, I guess, and try to like map out the flow, describe all of the graphics, but then it kind of loses the essence of
yeah.
the notes piece. So that's where I thought I'd
Well,
appreciate your perspective.
I can 100% speak to word clouds. And while I speak to word clouds, would you mind grabbing an example of a sketch note? Only because I am embarrassingly unfamiliar with sketch notes as a
Oh,
concept. So I could guess
I
based
was
on the
just,
words
I
sketch and
actually,
note.
oops, we might
But
have to stop share, but I
oh, sure.
actually,
Yeah.
um, because what we create with sketch notes follow a little bit more of a linear flow, so it's much easier. But I
Yeah.
just went online and just did a image search for sketch notes.
Yeah.
Basically, they're just they're graphical summaries, and it started with like, I think conference, like conference presentations. People
Yeah.
would actually physically draw by hand as someone is lecturing or someone giving a keynote or a presentation, and they
Gotcha.
literally start drawing things out with different visual like icons and text-based things. And so here, I'll just share
Yeah. If you want to
the
go ahead and share,
image. I just did a search, but so this is an example. Or I guess to my knowledge, the original sketchnoting was done by hand. So you actually use markers, and you're
yeah.
using eye-catching graphics to be able to draw your eye to certain zones. But then it became
Yeah.
digital, where it was being done digitally
Yeah.
as opposed to hand drawn. So it then started to become a little bit more linear. But
Yeah.
like an example would be something like this, where it's
Gotcha.
just kind of it follows a flow of the person who drew it, but it's not the only flow. It's basically it's a kind of like the other reference, like building a memory palace, but it's allowing you
Yeah.
to remember because you're kinetically drawing, creating during a session. So it's supposed to help kind of connect your memory to the actual occurrence and when certain things might have not caught your eye, but captured your attention. So there's
Well,
many examples.
if I so that so Kevin Slavin. So that particular doc, I mean, everyone is different, right? But if I were going to tackle that doc as an alternative formats person, the first thing that I would do is I would pull that up. That one would take either some true blood and pain in a professional PDF editor, um, or a really good optical character recognition tool like Abby Fine Reader. Uh, because with a tool like Abby Fine Reader, you can, I mean, it would have a ball trying to run optical character recognition on this, though it would probably catch some of it. But underneath and a tool like Abby Fine Reader, you can edit what a screen reader or text to speech software would read underneath it. And so you could make essentially what's underneath the graphic completely accessible so that if someone were to pull this up as a PDF using text to speech software or screen reading software, it would, and I can't quite zoom in to what uh, it says next to Kevin Slavin, but 26 minutes, I think it says. But it would say heading one, 26 minutes, Kevin Slavin Lift Conference. Um, and then those algorithms that govern our lives, February 2013. Um, and
Because
then edit the reading order and all of that.
if you created like, for example, if you used Canva and
Yeah.
created this, like kind of recreated this graphic and then you exported it as a PDF, all of the text would be recognizable. You could, add um, alt text to different graphics, but it wouldn't give a
Yeah,
flow.
yeah, I would not that would not be the way that I would recommend making it accessible. This as a PDF with just alt text behind like you grab each individual or sections of it and put alt text behind each of it. It would be a nightmare for
Mhm.
someone using screen reading software, not navigable at all because basically every couple of minutes, graphics, cities had to learn how to listen, graphic stealth on an explosion, graphic, like being able to actually navigate it and have kind of a sense of what's going on the page. Um, it it would be important to be able to interact with the text. So either, you know, going the disability services direction and creating an entirely alternative format, or really working with a good optical character recognition to make something that is actually programmatically accessible underneath. Because otherwise that would just be a giant piece of alt text, um, which would be a real bummer for someone using screen reading software.
Yeah,
And
and it's
not,
kind of a challenge, um, because I think Sarah had some valid points in this of like how different people will interpret it. So like, she was saying that, if I didn't listen to the presentation or anything that referenced this, I would have challenge
yeah,
interpreting it. And so the part of this is done, like it can be utilized as like a strategy for like each student creates their own sketch note, for example, so that it's
yeah.
for them as opposed to for everybody else to understand what my thought process and my flow is. But the challenge is if it becomes something that is then like public or shared with others, then how do you help everybody else understand what's going on in your head or your interpretation of something? So that's, I guess,
Yeah, I
there's
mean, I
no
think it would
easy
be a
answer.
mix. It would be the in terms of proactive accessibility, the best I think you could do would be a mix of good underlying optical character recognition to make what you can programmatically accessible underneath
Yeah.
for text-to-speech and screen reading software. And then ideally the author's interpretation in terms of alternative text description, but a lot of it is interpretation. Oh yeah, like Monica looks like this is a great comment. Putting the accommodation hat on from an old life, I can identify with that. Depending on the student using this example, this could be an accommodation example for something we call in the field reader accommodation support. May meet the need, but is not the same as making it digitally accessible. Um, it's this is the kind of thing that you can make it as accessible as possible by ensuring that all of the text that is in it is fully digitally recognizable with adaptive technology, and that the pieces that are the pieces that are visual design are described effectively. But yeah, if I my approach to this would be to start with Abby Fine Reader, and it would be a mix of text recognition and programmatic tagging with alternative text where needed. And then, yeah, there would probably be there
It
would
sounds
probably be it would
complicated.
probably be an accompanying caption to note that this is a visual piece up for interpretation.
And that, yeah, like someone was mentioning that it's already an alternative format for people who prefer visual to a like
Yeah,
an oral
Oh my God, you gotta be
lecture,
kidding
for
me.
example, or
Really?
like a presentation.
yeah.
Oh, you
Oh,
suck.
sorry to
Okay,
interrupt the flow. Yes, Marianne, go
I
ahead.
I kind of hate to do this, except we are down to the wire. We have 2 minutes left, so
Oh no.
whatever
Oh
kind
no,
of
there's
like
so much more to talk about.
right, so whatever kind of wrap up or you want is now's the time.
Ooh,
And
okay. Well, I did promise I would answer the word cloud thing, so I'm going to do that super, super duper fast. I'm just going to point out to folks that with word clouds, because I know that faculty tend to use those a lot, and I will say that just remember that word clouds are extrapolated from a list of data. They're pulled from like the whatever word appears biggest is the word that appeared the most from the data. And so remember that when you're describing it. So when you're creating alt text for it, remember that whatever data fed it is then what visually makes things most prominent. And you want to remember that contextually when you're describing that to folks. Um, Oh my gosh, there's so much more. There were so many good questions and so many things to talk about. Um, I'm so sorry that we're out of time. I didn't even get to if you saw me share my Chrome, I had 6 macroeconomics tabs open. If you're in for some interesting reading, I can send you all the macroeconomics tabs.
Hey, Michelle, if you're able to
Yeah.
follow up with Northwest Heat for this community around the math and the export option conversation. Sorry
Yeah.
to be like a dog with a bone, but I think there's a
Oh
lot
my
of us on
gosh,
this
yeah.
call that would like to close that loop. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I can even dig up I've got an old, well, it's not that old. I think I updated it 2 years ago. I'm not in a head member anymore, so I can't actually go into a head and see if they still have it published. But if y'all are a head members, um, they published a guide of mine years ago, an alternative format coordinator's guide to um accessible formats for students who are blind or something like that. Anyway, I can't access. I mean, I have the original copy, but I think they have it published. Anyway, there's a section in there with instructions on MathML from math type, and I can dig that up on my end too.
and so
Um,
what I could offer is that any resources, Michelle, that you want to share with us, we can
yeah,
facilitate sharing out to our participants.
Yeah,
Ha-
absolutely. Oh,
gr-
someone asked about Abby Fine Reader. Abby Fine Reader is not free, but Math
No,
Picks
and
is free. And that's the news that y'all should take with you because Math Picks is awesome.
thank you. And I really want to thank all the folks in the chat for the really lively conversation. I think a lot of questions got asked and answered in the chat, so that was great. Um, Thank you, Michelle, for doing this deep dive into STEM and accessibility and all its challenges. Um, and for our attendees, I just want to point out that our next webinar will be on April 21st. It is called Keep Calm and Make It Accessible, a conversation about PDFs featuring our colleagues from Oregon Health and Science University and Oregon State University, talking about how they support faculty in using or not their PDFs. So thank you to everyone, and especially to Michelle.